Celebrating 49 years on the air, award-winning Farmweek is a production of Mississippi State University Extension.
Today on Farm Week, one big Mississippi crop caught in the crossfire. Plus, it's the number 2 commodity in the Magnolia State and the reason for all this flashy equipment. In Southern gardening, a little star power just might be the perfect thing for your landscape. And in our feature, we cap off our forestry theme with a musical encore on tree farm economics. Farm Week starts right now.
Hello everyone, I'm Zach Ashmore.
And I'm Mike Russell. Great to have you with us again here on Farm Week. This week, more of a show on forestry, but first, a little housekeeping. Recently, what happens when tariffs are dropped and there's a remaining impact on buyers and other potential sellers, especially on one Mississippi crop. David Miller has more.
One of the biggest questions for row crop farmers is when will the Chinese step back into the U.S. market and buy a large portion of a predicted record-large crop of soybeans? South America is still filling orders at a time when U.S. output should be on China's books. The U.S. extended a line of credit to Argentina to help them with its struggling economy. At the same time, the Argentine government dropped its export taxes. In just 2 days, $7 billion worth of Argentinian beans were purchased by China, ignoring the U.S. stocks already for sale. Iowa State University economist Chad Hart thinks Argentine government officials from different departments weren't talking to each other while a deal was being hashed out with the U.S.
I'm watching to see just how big this crop will be at harvest. I do think we might see a little more slippage as we're looking at yield and production as we go through the fall. That product will need to move, and eventually we'll set the price to get it to move. So that means that we will discount our price to move the product along, because we don't want it to spoil and capture no value from it. It's better to make a sale at $8 a bushel than it is to watch it spoiling at $0 a bushel for it.
Later this month, we'll announce this year's Tree Farmer and Logger of the Year, and our main feature later in this show is a special encore on tree farm economics, thanks to landowner Bobby Watkins of Aberdeen. But first, the business of logging and all the amazing gear it takes to make it happen. Every other year, just south of Starkville, Mississippi, one of the largest and most dynamic displays of logging muscle in the entire country, the Mid-South Forestry Equipment Show. A few days ago, I toured this show, and let me tell you, I got an eyeful.
Cars and trucks everywhere you looked. No question, the 2025 Mid-South Forestry Equipment Show was a big show. And why not? It's the longest running live demonstration show in the Southeast U.S. Every 2 years, people from all over the country come to Starkville, Mississippi for a peek at the kind of forestry equipment and collateral gear that, quite frankly, helps this show just keep getting bigger and bigger and better.
Yes, to all those. It gets better and better. It's safer than it ever has been before. Okay, I mean, 30, 40 years ago, this was really dangerous equipment. You're out in the open air, a lot of dust, a lot of noise, a lot of things can fall on you. But through a lot of improvements they've made, you know, operating one of these pieces of equipment, you're in an air-conditioned cab listening to the radio while you're working. And it's extremely safe. A lot of them are going to more computerized models. You know, so it helps you make those decisions and things like that. It's easier to operate. Just like every other industry, it's had to move on and catch up with technology and catch up with time, because we want to reduce the number of people who are on the ground. We want them all in machines so they're safe and everybody can operate well.
This is a fun show because it is something so different than many shows out there, with the live exhibits going on where they can see the trees being cut and see the equipment actually running. People love it. To see the kids that are out here learning, and you know, what kid doesn't love some equipment being run in the woods? And so this is just like Disneyland to them. They're out in the woods And we're getting them out and to enjoy nature as well. So seeing everybody out here enjoying it, we've got between 3,500 and 4,000 people we expect this year. So it should be a great turnout. A year's worth of work, but we love it, and seeing it all come together and a beautiful weather as well, is just, that's all we can ask for.
This show, which started all the way back in 1984, is a partnership between the Mississippi Forestry Association, the Mississippi Loggers Association, and Mississippi State University. Out here on MSU land, 4 types of exhibitors call the show home for 2 full days. Tent exhibitors, static site exhibitors, live no-harvest exhibitors,
And then obviously we have our live site, which we're standing in front of now, and they actually get a block of timber to cut during the show. And they cordon it off so everybody's safe, but people can watch how these machines actually operate in the timber that they themselves need to cut. And so that gives them a good idea of how they can go about, will this machine help me? And we have 4 different live exhibitors this year. We have Tiger Cat, John Deere, Komatsu, and Ponzi.
landowners, loggers, students, media, and plain old curious types. Yes, this show captures the imagination. 4,000 visitors walk and ride through the show, all of them impressed. According to John Owl, featured in that story, nearly 66,000 people are directly involved in Mississippi forestry. There are more than 1,100 logging companies working to create billions in revenue for the state. And by the way, there are about 20 million acres of forested land in Mississippi.
In Southern Gardening this week, jasmines, a family of climbing vines and shrubs known for their star-shaped flowers. Here's Eddie Smith from Meridian, Mississippi.
Today on Southern Gardening, we're visiting the garden of Denise Temple in Meridian, Mississippi. Denise has mastered the art of container gardening using some of the most eye-catching variegated jasmines you'll ever see. Summer Sunset Asiatic Jasmine lives up to its name with fiery shades of yellow, orange, copper, and bronze mixed with green foliage. The colorful leaves add a warm glow that makes containers come alive all summer long. Snow and Summer Asiatic Jasmine is a real showstopper, with new leaves emerging bright pink before maturing into a crisp white and green. The ever-changing foliage gives this plant year-round interest. Denise also grows a green and white variegated jasmine too. Its elegant, creamy white and green leaves make it the perfect accent plant, brightening containers and mixing beautifully with bold colored flowers and darker foliage companions. Jasmines are tough, low-maintenance plants that are just striking in containers. They thrive in full sun, to shade, and only need occasional watering once established. Regular trimming keeps them neat, but Denise prefers to let them spill gracefully over the edges of her containers for a soft, cascading effect. For gardeners looking to add durable, colorful foliage to containers or garden beds, variegated jasmines are hard to beat. I'm Eddie Smith, and I look forward to seeing you next time on Southern Gardening.
We'll take a break right here, but don't go away. Coming up, one of my favorite Farm Week stories, tree farm economics. We head to the peaceful town of Aberdeen, Mississippi. There we meet Mr. Bobby Watkins, whose tall pines planted more than 30 years ago are both his retirement income and his legacy. Mr. Watkins was born to be a tree farmer. His love of the land sustains the here and now and will cradle generations to come. That's coming up on Farm Week. Don't go away.
I believe in people and their hopes, their aspirations and their faith. I believe in my own work and in the opportunity I have to make my life useful to humanity. I believe that education is a lifelong process, and the greatest university is the home. That my success as a teacher is proportional to those qualities of mind and spirit that give me welcome entrance to the homes of the families that I serve. Because I believe these things, I am an extension professional.
Walk across the great state of Mississippi with us. Join the Walk Mississippi and Live Healthy, One Step at a Time program. The Mississippi State University Extension Service is offering this virtual challenge for individuals of any age or teams of family, colleagues, students, church members, or any other group. We're walking 180 miles in 6 weeks, or about 8,000 steps per day, from October 11th to November 21st. Get fit and feel better. Eat healthier, manage your weight, and exercise regularly. There's no fee required, and you'll join our virtual community support group on Facebook and our weekly email list to get health education tips, nutritious recipes, and video demos. Fit more physical activity into your schedule and learn more about the benefits of eating healthy. Visit msuext.ms/walkms to learn more and register today. This week in the markets, we continue talking forestry with an economic look at Mississippi's #2 industry. But first, markets closed, still trending down, both row crops and livestock split. Let's take a look. The week's biggest gain, lumber, up 21.5 bucks, more than a 3.5% increase from the previous week. The week's biggest loss, lean hogs, down 3 3/4 cents. That's more than a 4% decrease from the previous week. So we've all heard that the average age of farmers throughout the U.S. is trending higher every year. In forestry, at least here in Mississippi, through organizations such as the MFA, we're attempting to curb that trend by encouraging the younger generations to get involved.
We have over 60,000 people in the forestry and logging workforce in Mississippi, and a lot of those are aging just like other workforces across the state. And so we have got to get the students interested in these jobs, and we've got to show them that it's not what you think about with a lumberjack in the woods with a saw or whatever they think of. They're in an air-conditioned cab, they're in the woods in this beautiful weather, and so this lets them see that this might be a job that interests them. And so this year we have about 600 students coming from across the state. Some of these are in forestry, some are in 4-H programs, some are in FFA programs, and some are just interested in seeing what's available in the workforce.
So now we're taking a deeper look into the Mississippi timber industry, the second highest grossing ag industry in the state behind broiler chickens, which generated nearly $1.5 billion in 2024. Here's a bit of a rundown of what the timber industry here looks like.
If you drive through or fly over Mississippi, you'll see very quickly that this state is a sea of green woodlands. With such abundance comes a unique industry, forestry, the third largest industry in the state, bringing in $3.3 billion of income and creating over 64,000 forestry-related jobs.
Mississippi is over 2/3 forest land. That's about 19 million acres. Over 3/4 of that is privately owned, and there's about 3,000 certified American tree farms in the state. They grow hardwood, softwood, or both. I reached out to Ginger Williamson, Timber Commerce Liaison for the Mississippi Department of Agriculture and Commerce, to find out more.
Mississippi is the third largest timber producer by acres produced, with nearly 20 million acres of forest land in the southeast. Predominantly, the majority of the hardwood that is milled for lumber in our state is red oak, and of course the softwood is southern yellow pine. We have nearly 1 billion green tons of forest growing in our forest land. That's a lot of timber. So we are well situated both in the southeast and nationwide as far as our timber resource, and really globally.
With these resources, it only makes sense that Mississippi timber finds its way to the domestic marketplace. But what you might not know is just how much it's also going international.
One of the things that we have begun to do here is to host international buyers to come to Mississippi. They're familiar with other states and their timber resources, but they haven't been as familiar with what Mississippi has to offer. So we have hosted international buyers from India, China, Vietnam, Spain, Great Britain, Mexico, Dominican Republic, lots of different countries. And when you tell them that we have 20 million acres of forest land, it blows their mind, because some of these countries don't have 20 million acres, much less 20 million acres of harvestable forest land. So it is a real eye-opener.
With that kind of impact on the world stage, it leads to an obvious question. We've got the wood, we've got the buyers, but what exactly are they buying?
We have a lot of dimensional lumber. We have utility poles that are shipped all over the world. We have a lot of beams that can be used for construction mats that are used in the oil fields and various other construction sites. We have, of course, wood pellets, and that's a huge product right now globally. Wood pellets are used for power. So Japan uses a lot of our wood pellets for energy. Throughout Europe, they use a lot of the wood pellets for home heating. But on the larger scale, they're used for energy production in replacement, oftentimes, of coal.
With such an important resource, it only makes sense that we would do our best to preserve it. Mississippi tree growers and harvesters have adopted practices that will help keep our timberlands healthy for future generations.
Sustainability is very important to us, and we have that all the way from loggers going through Sustainable Forestry Initiative training to the way our forests are managed. And so part of our finding markets helps with managing our forest properly to be able to find markets for different aspects of forestry.
With the advent of safer practices, the stewardship of growers who love their land, and the assistance of state and federal programs, it looks like Mississippi forestry is going to reach new highs in the coming years. It may not be the #1 timber producing state, but they do make an impact and they try to do it right. For Farm Week, I'm Zach Ashmore, reporting.
Back in 2018, the Wall Street Journal published an article entitled "Thousands of Southerners Planted Trees for Retirement. It Didn't Work." Its basic premise reverberated throughout the Southeast, where there are a lot of tree farmers. But as you might suspect, there's actually more to the story. Forestry is now Mississippi's #2 ag commodity. We looked deeper into the idea of growing trees for retirement. As it turns out, we didn't have very far to look.
I just always have loved land and being outside and camping out and Boy Scouts and different things. And we've got a real pretty lake we sit by every afternoon, and just enjoy being outside, listening to birds and looking at the clouds.
Bobby Watkins was born to be a tree farmer. These pines, planted 30 years ago just outside the peaceful town of Aberdeen, Mississippi, are both his retirement income and his legacy. Today, under his watchful eye, Bobby's friend and trusted logger Rodney Johnson is doing the final harvest on land bought long ago by Bobby's grandfather after World War I. The pines, he says, are in his blood.
I started coming up here in the 50s, actually, with my grandfather, and most of this land was in row crops, soybeans, corn, grain sorghum. That really wasn't the best use for the land, and so the best use is trees. And so we started planting pine trees in these old soybean and cotton fields in the late 80s.
Back in the day, Bobby got degrees from Mississippi State in animal science, agronomy, and entomology. For the next 30 years, he worked in corporate America in the research end of agricultural chemicals. All of that was excellent preparation for someone interested in forestry, which he's been doing exclusively for the last decade and a half. It also helped him develop a long-term plan.
We have a management plan, so everything's written down. Of course, the plan can change and you can modify it, but if you have a roadmap, like a flight plan, a plan to follow for 30 years to 50 years, you can follow that plan. It makes it a lot easier on everybody, especially your extended family and friends that you can share it with. Rodney, y'all will be through in another couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And then what do you think I'm gonna have to spend or do to get ready to site prep and to plant?
Rodney Johnson has known Bobby for 20 years. A veteran logger and Logger of the Year himself in 2017, Johnson has done 2 thinnings on Bobby's land and now the final harvest in a 30-year rotation. The two of them have looked far ahead over the years to maximize the tree harvest in every way. And by the way, if you're a landowner and want Rodney to cut for you, you'll need to make an appointment at least 2 years out. His company is that much in demand.
Bobby loves the land. He loves the trees and he's proud of what he's done. He's worked really hard over the years to do it. And Bobby studies and he makes informed decisions. And Bobby's not looking for tomorrow, but he's looking for the future.
Needless to say, that kind of effort and foresight in their partnership has also maximized the money both of them have made over that time.
I've come over here quite a few times and we walked through the property and looked at it and looking down the road, we'll say, you know, in 5 years we need to do this. And you know, I've always said no plan is a plan to fail. I didn't make that up. Somebody else said it a long time ago. But in the timber industry, and if you're farming trees, you don't get to do the harvest that often. So you need to plan for the future.
Another partner essential to the success of a tree farmer is a forester. Davis Lovelace is a veteran. He has a degree in forestry and wildlife management and worked for the Mississippi Forestry Commission for a time. His advice is priceless.
Well, the first thing that I would ask a landowner is, what's your goals? What do you want to do? What do you want out of this property? For most people, it's a legacy. You know, what am I going to leave to my children? To others, it's an investment. What kind of money am I going to make on this? To others, it's recreation. You know, how do you spend your time in the woods? I mean, there's a lot of different directions that you could go, but it all depends on the first thing is, what is the landowner's goals for their property? What do they want off of it? Trees grow like weeds in this part of the world. So whether you want to do it or not, it's going to happen. You have to look at it like a crop, just like any other crop. Whether it's cotton, soybeans, rice, peanuts. The only difference in this commodity and those commodities is the rotation, right? You're looking at a 1-year rotation for row crop and a 30-year rotation till final harvest on trees. You will get a return on your investment within the first 10 to 12 years, depending on what kind of ground you are, because you're going to thin it. Then you're going to wait another 10 years or so, and then you're going to thin it again. Like, this is the 4th time that he's made money off of this ground here.
So, even though wood prices aren't exactly what they were years ago, many of the thousands of tree farmers in the country will still make money and will still have something substantial to hand down.
It can work and it does work. It not just can, it still does work. I don't know anybody that planted pine trees that lost money. Everybody I've cut their trees for got money for them and made a profit. It might not have been potentially what they thought it would be, but they still did well. You can still buy land, and you can still invest, and you can still make money. I'm still doing it. I'm still buying land and trees. You just have to look for the right opportunity. When I buy a car, I don't go out and buy the first one that I see. I don't buy at the first price they quote me at generally. So it's all about your negotiation skills and looking and, you know, just finding the right fit for you and what your circumstances are.
Of course, there's an eco-impact too. Bobby is proud of how his trees stimulate the environment and impact his tree farming strategies amplify.
Each tree in a year produces about 220 pounds of oxygen. After they take the CO2 in, they split it off. We're storing carbon. We're making 220 pounds of oxygen per year. A person breathes about 1,600 pounds of oxygen. So 8 trees out here growing produce enough oxygen for you for a year.
And lest someone look at the empty land left behind after a final harvest and criticize the lack of trees, Bobby knows that after the next planting and rotation, there will come an even stronger harvest.
I'm sure somebody would look at this clear cut and say you shouldn't be destroying trees. We've got an overabundance of trees, and I'm taking out older trees that are not going to live forever. So we're harvesting something that's a renewable resource. It's not going to live forever, and replacing it with even better growing, vigorous trees.
Bottom line, Southerners have planted trees for retirement, and in the process created a nest egg that sustained both the here and now and will cradle the generations to come. After all, as the saying goes, money may not grow on trees, but it's a darn good start.
Mr. Watkins showed me several checks he earned from the final harvest on his land, but it's clear it's not just about the money. He cares deeply about the land. Well, next week, a precious encore. We venture back in time to a story that aired in the premiere of Farmweek all the way back in October of 1977.
You may have seen this one, all about Miss Lillian Thornton, who raised livestock near Raymond, Mississippi, all by herself after her husband passed away.
Farmweek's first feature story about Miss Lillian, a story told in her own words, next time on Farmweek.
If you missed a story, look for past episodes of Farmweek on our website at farmweek.tv.
And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. See you next week. Thanks for watching.